I am here for my God to reveal what was said in the beginning. In the beginning, God said, let there be. Now, why are we going to try to fix what God did? God said, let there be. Myrtle Fillmore said, I do not believe that the lily feels the terrors of darkness down at the bottom of the pond, nor does it allow the mud and water that shut out much of the light to keep it from appropriating the good that is provided for it, and pushing surely and intelligently upward to the freedom and light that were there for it long before the bulb began to swell and burst. I am sure that the lily is conscious only of the food in the earth and the warmth and helpfulness of the sun and air. We too shall be conscious of good only, and we will grow just as perfectly as the lily. It doesn't matter which side of the track you came from. It doesn't matter how you may have a story of trauma and drama. It doesn't matter if you were abused or misused. There's a light. There's a warmth. There's an energy that you can look to pull you up so that you may use all of those elements to bring you to your fullest expression that you were divinely designed to be in the beginning. Oh, y'all don't know what I'm talking about. I'm going to have to break it down some more. I'm sick of playing with this water bottle. I know that. We talked about it this week in our Roots of Science of Mind class. You know, it's a rich class. I'm sure anybody in there would probably recommend that you take it. Yeah. It brings you into a real understanding of what's really going on. So you can kind of release all of those perceptions that you've been fed about sin. You can release all of those concepts that you've been spoon-fed into believing was the truth about you. And, you know, I've mentioned this before, and I mentioned it in the class the other night, but I was in second grade when they were trying to tell me that babies were going to go to purgatory because of some kind of original sin. And I was like, excuse me, but that's not the God that I know. And they weren't really ready for me, I don't think, because the nuns kept trying to make me be some kind of miscreation that I wasn't trying to be. And God won out, of course. But there's so much focus that we have on what we perceive to be wrong. There is so much focus on what we perceive to be impossible. There is so much focus on what we perceive to be unending pain. You know, some people were talking yesterday about how nice it was and how weird it was, and oh God, it's March in Chicago, and what's this? And I was like, okay, because I was kind of like having like a meditative moment, and then I just spoke up and said, and you're grateful, right? Oh, yeah, I'm grateful, but it's weird. I said, and you want more, right? And they were like, oh, yeah, I want more. In case y'all didn't get from the reading, what that was about was the power of miscreation and the power of creation. I know that you were convinced that you were some lowly human and that you don't possibly have the power to create, but you are the begotten Son of the Father. You are the begotten daughter of the Father. There isn't simply Jesus and that was it. So within you lies the seed of something magnificent, and the power that you are misusing needs to be looked at here. It really needs to be looked at because you need to know how magnificent you are. You need to know that what's happening is this wonderfully loving Father is nourishing you and nurturing you and absolutely providing your good all the time. You can be concentrating on the weirdness of the weather, or you could be realizing that as nature is waking up right now, a great amount of prana is being released into the universe. That's life energy. You know that, right? That's life energy. And if you are so concerned about, oh, this is strange, this can't be happening now, then you are totally missing the whole point that God said in the beginning, let there be life. So, even as this afternoon we're preparing to have a dialogue of people coming from different walks to discuss, embody, and embrace peace. We have Jennifer Kim coming from the Peace School, and we have T.O. Hardiman coming from Ceasefire. We're meeting fear in the face, y'all. I'm serious about this theme, marching into battle against fear. And we're having G. Carter Hill as part of that panel, who's in the middle of a war zone from Imagine Inglewood If, calling for folks to come at 7 o'clock in the morning to pray because every day this week it seems almost there was somebody on their way to school getting killed and people having to have a vigil to see these children home. But it's about the miscreation. Because all we do is shake our heads and say, oh, isn't that a shame? Well, you know, that's Inglewood. Well, you know, it's hot weather. And so we continue to perpetuate with this divine intelligence that we have in the grasp of our hands, in the power of our minds, preparing for war instead of preparing for peace. But the lily doesn't look at the terrors of darkness. No matter how heavy the mud may be. It doesn't feel drowned by the water that seems to be shutting out the light, because there is nothing that can shut out your light. No thing can shut out your light. You are light. Let you be. I have been moving through a number of different transformations, and there are continuously opportunities for me to be in my gratitude. And I get to the point sometimes that all I can do is be in my gratitude. I think of how I may have been looking for support in one place, and that was not my experience. And then I see that when I simply started seeking my good, support came from every nook and cranny, every corner of my life. And so what I know is that God is able. Emma Curtis Hopkins tells us that complaining and whining are only exhibitions of great desert spots in your character. You must fill up deserts with rain and fertilizer. So you must transform your moments of complaining by praise and descriptions of the good in the universe. I was praising the weather this week. Y'all, it was supposed to be raining today. Now it's going to be sunny. There's a spirit of power within us. In reading this book, which I so loved, How Yoga Works, I was able to remember in the sitting of the meditation how you can use this time of the silence to see the good not only in your own life but in the lives of others. In fact, let's do that now. Let's turn within. And I want you to think of someone who is having a rough time. It might be somebody you love, but it might be somebody that you don't even like. But you know that that person is in pain. As you sit in the stillness, bring your attention to that person now. And breathe in. And as you breathe out, see your life energy removing all the pain from that person. Breathe in again and fill that person with love. And breathe out. So I began to do this with different people in my life, different people who had not necessarily been always kind or compassionate. And what I came to find out is that as I took that person into my meditation and breathed out, that it was not simply for that other person, but it was for me as well. Because now I'm no longer carrying the burden of some kind of heaviness and directing that, projecting that onto another. So I look up and I see the guy yesterday having this dialogue, and I'm going, okay, just have this conversation. And he's like in this sing-song voice, which I have never heard, and I've known this guy like all my life. I'm like, okay, God, go. Because what is happening is when you start to transform your complaints and your whining into an awareness of this person's energy, then there is nothing wrong with that person. And you are able to see that person as whole. And in fact, everything that you are ever seeing is a concept in your mind that you have created. If you have determined that there is something wrong with this person, it's going to be your experience until you are able to see otherwise. In the Course in Miracles, the Spirit is saying that fear does not exist. And I know y'all might be having a problem with that. Because as much as you try to deny that you're in fear, and we just are every day. Every day we're concerned about the weather. Every day we're concerned about whether we're going to arrive somewhere on time. Every time we think about something might be going wrong in our body. Every time we think about there might be something going on with my significant other and somebody else. Every time we get upset with somebody about what we wanted them to do that was different from what they did. Every time we are in a state of uncomfortable or unsatisfied or uneasiness, we are contributing that agitation to the entire planet. I'm not trying to bring you into any kind of Catholic guilt or Jewish guilt or any other kind of guilt that you bring from your heritage. But what I am trying to tell you is that you are the universe. And in this one song that we are singing together, we have a capacity to know greater love. And in this capacity to know greater love, we cannot keep it from ourselves. I don't usually do this, and this is kind of putting somebody on the spot. Do you mind if I share our experience this morning? Yeah. You okay? She's like, what you talking about? So Ebony was going to be with the children this morning, with David. So, you know, I'm in my prep time. Everybody knows don't try to talk to me before 9 o'clock because I'm not trying to have a conversation because I'm in another conversation. In comes a text. I'm not feeling well, so I won't be coming in. I'm supposed to be at the children's church, but I won't be coming in. And I'm going to say, what does she mean she's not coming in? Well, is he going to be able to do this by himself? What's going to happen to the kids? I'm like, stop. And then I was like, everybody is seeking their good. Everybody is seeking their God. Therefore, because God is always present, good is there. And I was done with it. I was like, what will be, will be. 45 minutes later, I go back to my phone and there's a text. I want to try to make it there. So then I said, okay, let me acknowledge this and say, okay, if you're coming, and then now I'm not even trying to push for her to come if she don't feel good. If you are coming, would you like a ride? She's like, no, I am coming, and I have one, but thank you. So when you're able to shift out of the way you want things to be and look at a whole picture and know that that good is ever present, you are shifting your perspective, and when you are doing that, you are moving into a deeper love, and you have the capacity to love stronger than you ever knew that you had. This is our annual thing. In case y'all forgot, trusting the authentic self, going deeper, loving stronger, living freer. I can't tell y'all how this frees you up. I mean, really. Because when you start pining for something or someone, or you start having these kind of likes that you know are impossible, like you might want to be with somebody who's already with somebody. Or you might have these kind of dislikes, well, I just don't like the way she looks. I mean, what is that? And so what happens is you're creating all of this turmoil within you. But when you know that everybody is a begotten Son of God, everybody is a child of God's creation, then you can only see that it's time for your light to shine. It's time for that light to dissolve any kind of darkness that's going on in your imaginings. Because anytime you are in your imaginings, you are living a lie because it is not the truth of your being. And because you are living a lie, you are not allowing the light of the presence of the divine to shine magnificently through you, warming the whole planet and disintegrating and eliminating any kind of dis-ease. And that dis-ease could look like illness, it could look like death, it could look like conflict, it could look like war. But your meditative thought said that love is stronger than death. You got to know this. I thought of this song and I said, well, I don't know if I'm just being selfish because we lost someone very, 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 very special in the community about 10 days ago, maybe 11. And it was Reverend Michael Beckwith's mother. And she was my first Beckwith friend before I met the rest of them. And I don't want to start talking about her because then I'll start crying again. But they had a musical tribute. She said she didn't want a funeral, so they said, well, she likes music. We could do music. Because they were like, really? How are you going to be Reverend Michael's mother and not have a funeral? So anyway, so they did this wonderful musical tribute. And then towards the end, you know, there was conversation about doing Genesis and how she loved that song. And you know, Ricky was like, oh, I don't know, we had time. I don't know, like, Eric, just do it. So I would sound like him then. But anyway, so that song, I had never heard Ricky sing quite like that. And it reminded me of the first time I heard Genesis. And so I said, well, Sue, maybe you could do this or maybe you could do that. She's like, no, I could do Genesis. Because, you know, when Sue is in her mode and she is there, then she just can tear that song up like she did today. But to know that I am here for my God to reveal what was said in the beginning, that I can stand still and be my own salvation. I don't have to look to somebody who is hanging on a cross for no reason because there's no sin, because he himself said, neither you nor your father have sinned, and everybody tried to make it seem like he died for something that don't exist. But if you could stand still and be your own salvation, it's really not difficult. Just like when you turn within and you started thinking of that other person, you do it for you. I do it for me. I do a lot of self-healing this way. When I'm able to turn within and breathe in the awareness of the substance of God and breathe out anything that appears to be unlike it, I let the genius of my body do what it does fully and completely and get out of the way of my miscreating any kinds of misperceptions. I throw that garbage out of my head and let God be God as me. I let that light shine and penetrate my entire being. And so whenever we even get caught up in those poverty thoughts, lack and limitation, when we start thinking that there is not enough, it's because we think that we are not enough, and that's the biggest lie that ever was. Turn to somebody and say, I am enough. Say to your neighbor, I am the light of God shining brightly. darkness cannot keep me from shining my good.
Darkness cannot keep me from shining my good.
Because you begin to realize, even I was sitting there in the meditation and I was doing a little bit of yogic breathing, but I was realizing that I'm inhaling my good. And then, as I'm inhaling my good, when I breathe out, I'm delivering my good. So if your life is a life of purpose, then you're breathing in more of your God self and you're breathing out more of the good that the universe is expecting to have. That can only come by means of you. So you don't have to look to Jesus or your mama or your daddy or your husband or your wife or your boyfriend or your girlfriend for your salvation. You are a child of God's creation. You're the light of the world, God in the flesh. Don't start worrying about what those people say, blaspheme, blaspheme. This is truth, people. And you know this in the core of your being. You know this is true because it resonates with the only thing about you that is real. So I invite you, as was indicated by the Season for Nonviolence reading, choose peace in your heart. And that will lead you to a stronger loving of yourself, a stronger loving of every life that is. And I invite you to know that each moment that you spend in peace and love is a healing moment for every life that is. It's only God. We are here for our God to reveal what was said in the beginning. Let there be light. That light is you. That light is an individualized expression of love. Namaste.